welcome back to Motor Coaching Newbie to Pro. Today we're going to talk about our hot water heater system. We had a failure with it and had to replace the unit. And the reason why we knew there was a failure to it was that when the room was quiet, you could hear a hissing noise, and the hissing noise was coming from the top of the tank. So the water had eaten a hole through the tank, and thusly it was enough pressure that it wasn't leaking water, but it was leaking steam and the air pressure. So that was a key indication, and we were still getting hot water to it. It was just a little bit noisy. So we had to replace the unit. And what we did, or what I did, was went online and did a search from different companies, and the price varied quite a bit for the unit. The range was about $300, which is a lot considering it's the same model and from the same manufacturer. Our particular hot water heater uses electricity or propane, depending upon how you want to do it. If we're hooked up to electric line, then obviously we use the electric. It's underneath the sink. It's enclosed in styrofoam. This is the replaced unit already. Unfortunately, we had to replace it prior to us making this video. And also on the hot water heater in the front, there was a bypass valve. It was a single valve that when you turned it to one direction, it would allow the water not to enter the heater, but just to bypass it and go through the system. And that's important for winterizing your system. But when I moved the valve, it started to leak, and so I had to replace that also. And instead of replacing the valve, I decided to use multiple valves and do the same thing. It was more economical. The replacement valve was well over $100 to do that, and I felt that was excessive for what I needed. So what we had to do was remove the old unit, and in order to do that, we have plastic piping and tubing, which looks like this. It's PEX tubing, and there's a clamp that goes over it, and I'll show you what that tool looks like. So we had to cut the lines on the inside, unplug the electric connection, which is an outlet right here on the side, and then when we go outside, I'll show you where the gas line is, and we had to disconnect that. And when you do get your heater, the box here behind this is where your heating elements are. So you have to take your cord and rewire it into that, which is really simple. Just match your colors, your black, your white, and your green neutral or green ground, and you'll be fine. And then it plugs into this unit here. So we're going to stop off real quick at our control panel first, and then we'll be back. There's one other thing I want to talk about briefly, and that is when we purchased this unit, it came to us and there was an extra wire on it in the harness. This was the wire harness, which had 3 wires into it, and it did match, but it had an extra one, and we tried to research that. The manufacturer couldn't help me, and the people who I bought the hot water heater from could not help me as far as what that wire's purpose was. And they just kept saying it was an upgrade from what the previous unit was, and it is required and necessary. At one point they even told me it was the ground wire, which it is not. I looked at the schematic on the hot water heater, and it is actually a 12-volt line that needs to be hot when you're using the propane side of the system. It powers up the igniter and powers up the computer that allows the hot water to determine whether you're using the propane or the electric. So what I had to do was use that extra wire and run a wire from my control panel, which I'll show you up front, all the way through the walls behind the bathroom and underneath the sink here to allow that unit to get enough to get the 12-volt current that's required to operate it. Otherwise the unit would not work. Water heater, the one on the right which is lit, is the electric switch. That's 120-volt side. So when that's off, there's no current going to the hot water heater, and it will not function at all because the propane side is not on. You can turn the propane side on, which is this, and it lights up, and that indicates that now the hot water heater is in propane mode, so it's using 12 volts and propane gas. One of the neat things about the replacement model is you can use both at the same time, where you can have electric on one side, propane on the other, functioning at the same time, dual purpose. And what that does is it speeds up your hot water heating process substantially, because you have 2 sources of energy now. So if you happen to run out for some reason, you can put both on at the same time and get dual heating action, which is kind of nice, particularly if you run out of hot water. I have yet to have to do that, but I keep it on electric when I'm plugged in at a campsite or on a resort. So I had to run, remember I was talking about that extra wire, I had to run that through the wall underneath the bathroom, which is behind this wall, through the cabinetry and up the wall into this switch, because this switch is a 12-volt switch. And so that when I turn this on, it applies the 12 volts to that extra wire in the back, which allows the igniter to ignite the propane system. And as I said, that's a helpful hint because it took a while to figure out where that wire went and what the purpose of it is, but it needs to go to a 12-volt system. And unfortunately, as I said, the manufacturers and the dealer that I bought the hot water heater from was not very helpful. Okay, we're going to go outside and look at the outside part of the unit, and then we'll talk about the thermostat. Okay, we're outside of our motor coach, and this is the back panel to the hot water heater where you access it from. There's a trim piece that comes around here, and when I take the cover off, that will stay on. And this is the back side of the hot water heater. The way you remove it is you're going to have to take all these screws out. They're coming out, so all the way around, take the corners off, and then this piece of trim will be removed, and that comes straight out. You want to be careful that you don't chip your paint, and when you reinstall it, you want to try to match up your stripes as well as possible, because it'll be a dead giveaway if your stripes are off that you've already been in here and did some servicing to it. And then your gas line is right here, and then unscrew that. The whole unit will slide out. And just be careful you don't scratch your walls or anything. You can place it on the ground. And then what you're going to do is take the new unit, and these pieces will be folded straight. They won't be flat. You're going to keep it that way until you push it in, put your trim piece up, and then you're going to fold that back and screw it in, and that'll hold your trim piece in place. So it's kind of awkward, but it does work. We did have one problem with this unit though once we put it in. It came with the thermostat, and the unit was kicking in and out constantly. It would cycle for about a half a minute, kick out, cycle for half a minute, kick out. You could really notice it with the propane. So what I did was I removed the thermostat, which is behind this plate. There should be a foam piece that comes over here, and I'll explain why it's not there. And this is what the new thermostat looked like. And I removed it, and I took the old thermostat off of the old hot water heater and installed it, and it solved the problem. So that indicated to me that the thermostat, even though it was brand new, was faulty. And the way you remove these, they fit in there, and there's 3 claws that go over it, and there's a plastic piece, and you just have to get that plastic piece to go on the other side of that mount and the spring load, and it'll snap out. So you just have to get a small screwdriver and you pry that out. I replaced it with a totally different kind of thermostat though. When these come from the factory, they come with a preset thermostat that's non-adjustable. It should be set for between 145 and 150 degrees. And personally, I like to be able to control my temperature. To me, that's too hot. I don't need it that hot, so I'm wasting energy. Some people want their water hotter. Why they don't put an adjustable one on these when they come out of the factory, I do not know. But there is an adjustable thermostat available, which you can see because it's installed. And each notch on the letter is 10 degrees. It comes set at 145, and so you can set it at 10-degree increments with a screwdriver. And the way you install that, well, first of all, I purchased it on Amazon, and I'll have the link available for that on Amazon so that it's convenient for you to find. And it's very simple to do. It takes about a whole 5 minutes at the most to connect it, and it comes with the wires and everything. So I really don't understand why they don't do it to begin with. But you're going to take there's going to be a piece of foam that covers everything, and you're going to take that foam and you're going to cut it straight down with a knife. You're going to remove your wires here, which on your old thermostat, which are right here. You're going to remove those, and you're going to remove the old thermostat. There's the tab in the back that I was talking about. It's that black piece, and it goes, you're gonna have to take a screwdriver and you're gonna have to push that flat down against the tank wall. And there's 3 of them. So you're gonna have to do that to install your thermostat. There you go. And then once you have that, the new thermostat has a bracket, which is different than this. This had the plastic piece. This big metal piece on the outside is the bracket. And that's got 2 feet that fit underneath the black metal here between the liner and the water tank. And that's what holds this in. it's just that piece that holds it in there. And now you put your wires back on with the jumpers that they provide, and it makes it a real simple installation. And then you can adjust it from the temperature with a screwdriver here, whether you want it hotter or colder. It's very simple, just follow the directions. And by a simple, this piece ran, I think it was about $35. And by installing that, now I have control over the temperature of my hot water heater, whether I want it colder or hotter. I was talking to an RVer the other week who didn't know about these things, these thermostats, and he was complaining that his water wasn't hot enough. Well, he had a couple problems. First problem was that his burner, he had only a propane heater. It wasn't electric and propane. His propane was not, didn't have the proper air gas mix, so his flame was very yellow. That flame should be blue. So he wasn't getting a hot flame, and he was getting soot all up his side of his RV, which was the dead giveaway that that was not correct. And then also I looked, and he didn't have an adjustable thermostat. Okay. When you're working with plumbing parts, most of the plumbing in trailers, fifth wheels, or motor coaches is PEX tubing. PEX tubing is a plastic tubing that you can buy in any hardware store, home center. It's fairly easy to work with, easy to cut. But the difficulty with it is you have to have a special tool to use to apply your connections and crimps. And this is what this special tool looks like. They're kind of expensive for what they are. They run anywhere from $40 to $60. And this one's designed for 1/2-inch PEX. So if you have your tube, you need to get clamps similar to this too, and they run about 50 cents a piece. And you'd put it on your PEX tubing, then you'd put your fitting in the hole, line this up, and then take your crimper, and you're going to take the mouth opening and put it in the clamp, and then you squeeze this. And when you squeeze the handle, it's going to compress that clamp on the tubing, which will compress it on your fitting, and it creates a leak-proof joint. So that's the basics behind crimp fittings. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, because we always like to keep you up to date on some of the suggestions and some of the hints and tips that we have. And remember, on the bottom of our screen there's the like us button, and then next to that is the subscription button, and we'd be most appreciated if you were to do that. And thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye.